Here we go.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, a longtime listener. For those of you who are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button as we dive into this series here. But for those of you who are already subscribed and have been following along recently, you might be thinking, what is going on here? You've already got a Road to the Show series going, so why are we staring at a team selection menu? And we are going to do a franchise. Now, I did a franchise series last year with the Detroit Tigers, and we did it in a fashion that was very um, presentation oriented. And what I mean by that is I would play the games, go in and edit, and then create the content in such a way that it was kind of like a highlight reel, and we would get to watch 2 games an episode, that sort of thing. This year, the way we're going to do this is I'm just going to play the games and record them as we go. And maybe for this first episode, I might do just a little bit of editing because of the length of the episode based on the fact that I've got to get through kind of a team introduction, talk about our strategy for trades and that sort of thing to kind of start off the season. But let's jump right in. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button more importantly, and comment below if you've got ideas as far as how we can approach this franchise. But we're going to go with the Baltimore Orioles. This is a team that definitely needs to be rebuilt. You see that the overall ranking, according to MLB the Show, is dead last in the league. They've got a little bit of power, but they are pretty bad at everything else. So we're going to turn off GM contracts because this first season is going to be a mess. Everything else we're going to leave on. So that's the plan for that page. We're going to take care of all of the tasks in terms of being manual instead of automated. So that's that. We are going to start in spring training. And part of the reason there is that I want to get a look at some of the guys on this team who we're not really sure what we're going to do with. So let's take a look at this roster. I have not even looked at this team. Now I know a little bit about them just because I'm a baseball fan, but I don't know what MLB the Show thinks of them. So looking at the pitching staff, John Means, a 27-year-old starting pitcher, is decent, and he's B potential, so he will continue to be decent for a few more years. But he's our ace. Felix Hernandez, we know all about him, the aging veteran right-hander. He'll be pretty solid for us, I imagine, especially when I use him. The challenge for me is I like guys that have good control. This one's okay. I think about 65 and up are pretty good. Felix Hernandez is starting to lose his command, so that's no good. Wade LeBlanc, a crafty left-hander. They don't even have him on the 40-man roster at the moment. So, like, look at this. Of the guys near the top, they've got a bunch that aren't even on the 40-man roster. And that's basically, I imagine that some of these guys might even be game-generated players, like not even real players. I'm not sure, but the bottom line is, you've got some guys here that are rated okay, but not even on the 40-man roster. So it might be one of these situations where to start the year, I will probably call up Wade LeBlanc. He's, again, a crafty left-hander. We might only be getting one more year out of him. Like, let's look at his contract. Yeah, he's gone at the end of the year. But for right now, I could probably use him in the starting lineup. You got Keegan Aiken. Like, Grayson Rodriguez, you're probably going to start in the minors. If you're doing well, I maybe look to call you up as the season progresses. But he's only 20 years old, so he is one of my top prospects, even though he's only B potential. So we'll keep an eye on him. Excuse me. DL Hall, another big-time prospect for us, 65 overall, A potential. Looks like he's a lefty, which I like. The command is a little bit off, and then if you look at his walks per 9, that's terrible. So he's going to struggle in this game. So anyway, yeah, terrible terrible, deep potential, terrible. He's 27 already, Jorge Lopez. I mean, it's not pretty, guys. This guy is a 58 overall, and we have him on the Major League roster. So, not a good situation. In the bullpen, it's pretty much the same. We've got an aging veteran, and we've got a bunch of guys that are middle-aged, but not all that great. These two here could eventually be decent pieces of my bullpen situation, but not a lot going on there. Hunter Harvey is listed as our closer, and he's atrocious. 57 overall. Now he's 26, but he is an A potential. Dude throws gas, but has no command. So that's just not going to work. He is not going to be our closer. One of these guys is probably going to do it, or I go and get somebody in free agency because we're so bad that we are just desperate for help. So that's the situation there. Now at catcher, we've got Adley Rutschman coming up through the ranks, who has potential to be really good. He's already a 70 overall, decent bat, decent, defensive skills, and he actually runs okay for a catcher. So he's a bright side for this team. He's a switch hitter as well, which I really like. Now, Chance Sisco is a guy that's been around for a little bit, hasn't quite blossomed, especially against, you see, lefties. He just cannot hit at all. He's got power, but that's it. And so he's going to platoon with Pedro Severino at the major league level. Trey Mancini is a decent option at first base. Hits the ball pretty well. Not very good defensively in terms of his arm, but that really doesn't matter at first base, so we're not worried about that. Ryan Mountcastle doesn't hit lefties all that well, but he's very good against right-handed pitching, which is interesting because he is right-handed. And only 24 years old, pretty good in the field. Does he play? And he plays multiple positions, so we should be able to take advantage of that. Now, Trey Mancini can also play the outfield, so that's something that we can leverage. Tyler Nevin is not very good on the Major League roster. Here's a guy we got to look for in the future, perhaps. 18 years old, already a 61 overall, and he's got pretty good offensive ratings. So that's a guy that could be a pretty good player for us. Needs the defense to come along a little bit, but at 18 years old, that's an option to maybe take the place of one of these two guys at some point down the road. At second base, Yolmer Sanchez, not very good at the plate, but a very good defender. Ramon Urias, another situation where he's decent at the plate, very good defensively. So now look at, okay, so he can play any infield position, anywhere but first. Jahmai Jones can also play outfield. Great speed, pretty decent defensively, decent at the plate. Although his vision and discipline and clutch are not very good, so not sure what to expect out of him. Pat Valaika, he can hit against lefties pretty well and plays a lot of different positions. So that's one thing that we have going for us on this team is some versatility with a lot of guys. Wilbus Santiago, he's 24 already. A potential though, and can play corner infield, but his best position is second base. That's kind of strange. He's pretty good defensively, decent speed, no power. So we'll see how he comes along, but he might be a guy that we can use eventually if he gets that contact rating way up into the 80s or something. Rio Ruiz at third base, decent pop, no contact against righties, but he's a decent glove as well. So he's a usable guy for right now, only 26 years old, so we'll see how he does. Freddie Galvis, veteran shortstop. He can play a bunch of positions as well. He's decent at the plate, pretty good glove, doesn't have an arm, but he's probably going to have to be our shortstop, so we'll see how that goes. Now, Terran Vavra, which is an awesome name, by the way. Defensively, he's already Major League ready. He's got good speed, too, but his plate skills are going to have to come along. He's only 22, left-handed bat, which I like. And with that kind of speed, if he can develop his bat, he could be a really good player for us in a couple of years. So, and then a couple of guys here with, well, really here, B potential, Adam Hall, B potential. He's a 68 overall. Again, no contact, good speed, and good defense. So, a couple of guys there that I can definitely get some use out of in the next few years. Left field, we have nobody. Center field, Austin Hayes is a pretty good player. He can't hit left-handed pitching, which is, again, weird because he's right-handed. Very good defensively, decent speed, so he's going to get a lot of playing time. Kyle Stowers, decent bat, decent glove, decent speed. At 22 years old and B potential, he's going to come along and be a pretty good player for us. Now, again, plays multiple positions, so yet another example of a guy that we can move around if we need to. Cedric Mullins cannot hit lefties at all. He's decent against righties, and he's left-handed, right? Oh, he's a switch hitter. If you're that bad facing lefties, just bat left-handed. Just don't even bother switch hitting. I think, who was it? Shane Victorino was a switch hitter and then eventually figured out he was just so bad from the one side of the plate that he just stopped doing it for the most part. This guy's got good speed. Again, hits righties pretty well. And decent defense, no arm. But 26 years old, not sure how much I'll be able to use him in the future. Ryan McKenna is terrible. Anthony Santander is probably the best player on this team in terms of just like all around, he's pretty good. Decent contact, pretty good pop, very good fielding. His arm isn't the greatest, but this is a guy at 26 years old and a switch hitter. I really like what he brings to the table for us, so we're going to kind of hopefully build around him. DJ Stewart got good pop. The contact has room for improvement. Decent defender. Again, plays any of the outfield positions. At 27 years old, we'll have some use for him for sure. He might be our DH, but we're so bad in the outfield that some of these guys are going to have to play outfield, or I'm going to have to move some of those infielders out here that are, kind of utility guys. Now, Yusniel Diaz, decent at the plate, but really not quite major league ready, to be honest. He's a good defender and pretty good speed, but not sure how much playing time he's going to get. If you can't hit, I don't have much use for you. But, again, looking at this team, I think our most obvious glaring gap is right here. We don't have a closing pitcher, and we don't even have a guy here that we can plug in there. Our best reliever is a junk baller, Cesar Valdez. 36 years old, the velocity rating at 38. That's not a guy that we want as our closer. So we need to go get a legitimate relief pitcher that we can use as a closer just for 1 year. This team is going to be terrible in this first season because our pitching is so bad. I mean, it's ranked 30th, but I'll bet you MLB The Show thought about ranking them 31st because they don't even belong in the top 30 as bad as they are. So, let's take a look at, actually, before we go to the free agent market, we're going to need to get rid of somebody to free up a space. So we're going to look at the entire roster, and this guy is Claudio Custodio. I've faced him in our Road to the Show series and owned him because he's terrible. He's a 45 overall, F potential, and he's already 29. So, he gone. We're going to just flat out release him, and that frees up one spot on the roster. Now what we need to do is go to the 40-man roster and find somebody that we can also move off of the list. And it is going to be Chris Davis. 35 years old. This guy still trying to figure out how to make it in baseball. And he is awful. So we are going to remove him from the 40-man roster. He's going to have to clear waivers, but I don't care. If somebody wants to pick him up, let him. Because I think he's got a contract that I don't really want to deal with anyway. In fact, can I still see that? What's his contract? Yeah, we're paying him $23 million for the next 2 years, and he is just awful. Look at his numbers the last few years in the majors. Now, this was the last year that he was decent. He hit 26 homers in 128 games, but the 215 batting average obviously has a lot of room to improve, and his OPS was 732. That's just not getting it done. And then a 539 OPS, hit 168, hit 179, and then the last time they really even tried to give him a chance was 2020. In the obviously the shortened season, and he hit 115 with no home runs and a 337 OPS over 52 at bats. So he is useless to us at this point in his career. In fact, he's less than useless because he's actually killing us with a $23 million contract. Now, let's go find a relief pitcher. The one that I really want to try and sign, if I think about it, would be Roberto Osuna. He's 26 years old. He's an 85 overall. He's the best guy out there. There's no question about that. Now, the reason that I'm kind of hesitant to do it is I don't know that it's realistic for this guy to end up on the Orioles. You'd have to be one heck of a GM to coax him into coming to play for you, as bad as your team is. Excuse me. So I don't know that that's fair for me to go and get him. However, there's not a lot of other great options. Shane Green, he has done some closing in the past. He did it for the Tigers and was pretty good one year. I can't remember which year it was. So this year here, he was really good for the Tigers. A 2.66 ERA is pretty darn sharp, but other than that, he was, pretty bad for them. And then I think he split time between Atlanta and Detroit this season and was really good. But anyway, he's a guy that we could use, but what I don't like about him is he doesn't throw a four-seam fastball. So he's out. David Robertson, maybe? How's he done the last couple of years, though? So he struggled last year, but it was a short season. So he's a guy that I think we can get away with. Let's do that. Again, 85 overall Roberto Osuna. If I were to try and sign him, he's wanting 5 years, $12.5 million, which I can afford that. But the problem is, I don't really want to get to where we start this thing off on a completely unrealistic note. So David Robertson, totally understandable that a guy like this would sign, like a 1-year deal with the Orioles as the closer. And as a result of it being the shorter contract, he would probably want more money. And to keep him happy, we're going to make it worth 2.8. And he signs. So now let's get into the roster again and make sure. Yeah, they didn't even put him on the 40-man roster, but that's okay. We can fix that real quick, move him up, and now we're ready to go. So now let's look at our lineups. Oh, goodness gracious. I want guys that can hit. Austin Hayes, batting leadoff, looks good. DJ Stewart, not your prototypical two-hitter with 40 contact, but I don't know that we have a prototypical anything on this team. Anthony Santander, batting third. Trey, that's good there. Ugh. I like that we're mixing up going righty-lefty kind of thing, but 43-57 batting fifth. I don't know that that's going to work. Ryan Mountcastle, you're going to jump up here. We're just going to do it. And then I'm good with Chance Sisco there. Galvez. Rio Ruiz at third. I wonder if we have any better options to play third base. 48-63. He's better. He's not as good defensively. That's a maybe. I'm just looking for bats that kind of stand out as like, oh yeah, we got to find a way to get him in the game. So he's got speed. He's 23. The plate skills are pretty bad. Defense is okay. That's a maybe. I really want to try and figure out a way to get him in the lineup, but we're going to give we're going to give the default lineup a chance. The only thing we did was just switch those two guys. So we're going to do it again here. Now against lefties, Austin Hayes, they still have him batting first, which he's going to be terrible against lefties. And look at this. He's atrocious, and they have him batting second? No. Just no. DJ Stewart can play there before he does. Pat Valaika can play there. Let's put him there. 60 and 80 power, and they don't even have him in the lineup? Come on, guys. Jemai Jones needs to get some PT against lefties. So if we've got those guys, all right, so how bad are these guys against lefties? Let's put him there, and he is going to bat second. Now, the rest of these dudes, Freddie Galvis, that's okay. I'm going to put Rio Ruiz ahead of him. He's got some pop. So, that, and then we need an outfielder. Yusniel Diaz. Do I put Jemai Jones out there? Let's give Jones a chance. 62-60 in terms of his, contact and power is hard to ignore. So, all right, so we want him there and put him bat second. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so that's how we're gonna rock the offense for now. And then in terms of the pitching rotation, closer is David Robertson. The guys that are down here are all so bad that I'm fine with them not even seeing time in spring training. So, ooh, goodness, we are just so bad. So Tanner Scott throws gas. Paul Fry is more of a middle reliever, I feel like. So that's a good looking setup, I guess, for the bullpen. I don't want him as our number 5 starter. King Felix is going to be number 2 in the rotation. And what about yeah, that's good. Although, God, he's so bad. I'm gonna go with Ashton Goudeau over Dean Kramer. Because Kramer's command is awful. And I don't like that. So that's how we're going to set up the rotation for now. And again, this team is going to be bad this year. If we lose 100 games, I wouldn't be surprised. So what we're going to do for this first episode is actually I'm going to go in and we're going to clean house in our staff as well. We've got some extra money to spend this year. I don't want terrible coaches. I don't want terrible scouts. So like a C grade, he gone. I don't care if it's costing me $4 million. Get rid of him. C, see you later. A, you can stay. See you later. See you later. A can stay. So we already have a pitching coach and a farm director. We need everybody else. So now we're looking for guys. I don't really care too much about the age, but what I really want, I want the high attribute grade, B or better, and then looking at like the ones that they highlight, we really don't want ones that look like they're going to hurt us big time. Like -2 contact is not ideal. +2 drag bunting, I don't care about at all. I think in general though, like you don't see the rest of their ratings, but the reality is they're good overall if they are an A. It just happens to be that the -2 contact is one that they point out, but we're going to go with this guy. We're going to try and make him a 2-year deal, and just $2.6 million as a head coach is not that bad. He accepted it. Now we need a hitting coach. See, okay, here's an A. That's my man. Will he take 3 years at 3.3 million? He did. So I'm paying my hitting coach more than my head coach. What else did I need? Oh. Where were we? All right, so I need base coaches. All right. Jason Benton. He accepted. And now third base coach, Jeff Hermanson, accepted. So now when we look at our coaching staff, we're solid. A overall all the way up and down the lineup. There are a lot of guys that helps because morale is a factor in regards to what they feel about the coaching staff. So that is what we're shooting for there. Now, scouts, we're going to just basically get the best available for each region. So we're going west, central, that guy's pretty balanced. East, this guy is definitely the best. And then international, that guy's not very efficient. This guy's pretty balanced. That's my guy. So we spent a bunch of money, but if you look at our projected surplus for the year, 27 million. So that's not that bad. I mean, we're sitting at 26.6 basically in terms of our surplus for the season. So I will take it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and actually let's look at one more thing before we wrap up this episode, and then we'll start gameplay in the next episode. Looking at our depth chart, I like that the MLB The Show added this view. This view, like looking at this year, is not super valuable. However, like look, we got Austin Hayes, for example, in center field. Okay, he's a 76 overall. If I progress to 2022, it now tells me what these guys are projected to be at that time. So this helps me kind of look into the future and figure out where do I need help. And what I like that it does is it puts guys in positions that they can play so that you can see the depth even with your utility guys. Like I've got Jones, who looks like he's going to be pretty good. Unfortunately, I can't play him at every dang position. And it appears as though he's in a contract year because when I go to 2022, he just disappears. So the challenge becomes, okay, if I look into next year, like who's critical that I re-sign? I would say he's one of them. There's a bunch because, you know, the bottom line is as we get farther out, we're going to have to figure out where we have gaps. You know, the pitching gets a little bit better, I guess, in a couple of years, but we still need to probably go get a free agent. We're just going to have some gaps in this lineup. Bottom line, left field is an area where I feel like, bottom line, we don't have anybody. Everybody that's listed there, it's not even their primary position. So we got to go find some talent and hope that we can be competitive in a year or two. There's Peter Welch finally cracking into the major league ranks there in left field, 77 overall. That's pretty cool. But, guys, this team is not very good. That's just, it's the harsh reality at the moment, and we need a lot of help. We draft 5th in the draft this season, and I think we need to just basically get the best player available. There are very few positions that I would avoid simply because of who we already have at that position. So the bottom line is we're looking for a guy that's pretty much major league ready with A potential. We would take somebody that's an absolute stud right now with B potential, but I really want somebody with A potential because we want somebody who's going to be an elite player in a couple of years. So we'll have to kind of work on that as we get there. But I guess let's finish by going ahead and we'll just... Wait. That's not what I want. We're going to go here and we're going to just sim through spring training. and see how we do. And then we'll be prepared. Okay, Felix Hernandez, broken nail, not a big deal. Yep. After we wrap up spring training, we'll take just a quick look at how everybody did, and then wrap this one up and jump into the next episode, starting off the season. We're doing pretty well here. We went 15-12, which is pretty good. Let's go look at, where is it? Let's look at statistics. How did we do? So we're going to sort by OPS. Okay, so he was really good. Basically, we're looking, there's a bunch of impressive numbers from Santander up, so that's promising. This guy only 6 at-bats, so that's kind of a small sample size. 27 is a small sample size as well, but nonetheless, he took advantage. Then we get down here. Mancini was okay. Jones was okay. Sanchez was okay. Cedric Mullins was okay. Diaz, no power, but other than that, he did okay. And then we get into some rough numbers. So Valleca was not very good. Not what I want to see. Montcastle struggled. Rio Ruiz struggled. And Severino struggled. But none of those were like so bad that it's like, oh my gosh, you're not even getting on the roster kind of numbers. So we'll deal with that. Now for whip, we're starting with the bad and we'll end with the good. And of course the guy that I went out and signed was awful. I mean, he only threw 5 innings, but he gave up a run per inning basically. And the whip of 2.44 is just atrocious. Tyler Wells was not very good. I don't have a lot of use for him other than to like be sort of a, wait, was he's not in my starting run? No, he's a long reliever, so whatever. Keegan Aiken, not very good. Sean Armstrong, not very good. Lopez, not very good. Not very good, not very good. Now from here down, things are looking okay. So Kramer was good. King Felix good. Goudeau good. Paul Fry was solid. Zimmerman was good. John Means dealt. I mean, the ERA is inflated, but otherwise that's really impressive. Only 3 innings of work. How about Cesar Valdez? 11 innings, didn't give up a run, a .64 whip, and then none of these guys pitched. So really nothing there that I'm going to react to. Look at the Braves going 23-4 in the spring. Holy moly. Winning 10 in a row to wrap things up. But I'm not going to make any changes based on that situation as far as how everybody did in the spring. So we're going to jump into the regular season, get our scouting. Wait, what is this? Oh, okay, so we got mail. Holy moly. There we go. Good there. Now, let's go to scouting. We're going to look for pitching. We'll mess with these as we go. My strategy, why did that not? My strategy when I'm scouting is, I'll kind of show it to you, but basically each day I scout a player of a different type. And what I mean by that is, like, we're scouting right-handed pitchers that are clutch for this day. And the goal is, hopefully, my scouts will discover a couple of prospects like that in each of their respective territories. Then, after that day, we move on and we look for guys with command. Do that for a day. Then, I don't really care so much about movement. Then we go velocity. Then we change and go lefties. And that strategy we do for each position, essentially, until we've scouted kind of all the types of players that we want, and then we go in and scout each individual guy based on which ones we think are going to be draft worthy. So, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment below, and we will see y'all next time.
Here we go.